I call this regular meeting of the Nevada City Council to order on Monday, February 26, 2024, 6 o'clock p.m. Can we get a roll call, please?
Henry Corbin,
Here.
Dane Nielsen,
Here.
Jason Sampson,
Here.
Steve Skaggs.
Here. First item is approval of the agenda.
To approve.
Second. Steve, any discussion on agenda? None. Council, please vote. Approved. Takes us to consent agenda. Any item may be removed for separate consideration.
Move to approve. Second.
Jason, Henry. Seeing no discussion, council, please vote. It is approved. Takes us to public forum. Time set aside for comments from the public on topics of city business other than those listed on the agenda. No action may be taken. The first request we have in the public forum is Dr. Gray.
Good evening, everyone. Steve Gray, Superintendent of Nevada Schools. Just wanted to visit and update the council in regard to discussion for school resource officer. Over the past several weeks, the topic of adding a school resource officer has been brought to both the council and the school board. As a result, the city school committee also met to discuss the topic. Most recently, the school board discussed the topic at length during their annual board retreat. No action was taken, but my purpose here tonight is to update the council on the position of the school board at this time. The board is supportive of a partnership with the city for the addition of an SRO for the 24-25 school year. To that end, we'll begin to develop school-related job specifications to best meet the needs of the district, should the position become a reality. In addition to security, safety, and compliance, our board desires a holistic approach to the position of SRO. Such items as educational programming and training, professional development, mediation and conflict resolution, behavioral and mental health, mentorship and counseling, family and community engagement, student truancy and absenteeism, and case management and crisis response. In addition to any typical SRO training through law enforcement agencies, the district is prepared to seek out additional training on these types of topics for a new SRO. Should the council wish to move forward with this partnership, there's the matter of funding, of course. The district is prepared to reimburse the city for 50% of the total cost of the officer. Finally, it has been mentioned that the possibility of implementing a utility franchise fee could be used to pay for the city portion of an SRO. The board does not support the implementation of a franchise fee. Under a franchise fee, a significant portion of the city's additional revenue for an SRO would come at the expense of the school district through additional fees. This would essentially leave the district funding the bulk of the SRO. Thank you for your time this evening. At your direction, the district is prepared to move forward with an SRO. Thank you.
Dr. Gray, I think, can speak for the council and say that they're excited about having the collaboration. I know it's in our budget on our end for the next year. I know Chief Brandis is really excited about the opportunity to work on that too. So from our end, should be good to go. Just one small thing too with the franchise fee. If the city did convert the 1% local option to the 1% franchise fee, businesses and residents would not see a change, and the school by our math would be about $4,700. So it'd be a fairly small amount in that, but that's just small beans clarification on that. So, which is not part of the budget proposal for this next year. Anything from council? Thank you. Anyone else in the public forum? Okay, and seeing none, we will close public forum.
You have a second slip.
These are for items. Old business A, resolution number 50, 2023-2024. Resolution approving the proposed property tax levy for fiscal year 2024-2025 budget.
Move to approve. Second.
Steve, Dane. Discussion. None. Council, please vote. Approved. Takes us to B, resolution number 51, 2023-2024. Resolution providing for notice of intent to fill council ward 2 vacancy by appointment.
Move to approve.
Second. Jason Dane. Seeing no discussion, council please vote. That is approved. Takes us to C, ordinance number 1050, 2023-2024. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Nevada, Iowa by rezoning the property at 115 West Lincoln Highway, Westfield Development LLC from UCR3 Urban Corridor Urban Family Residential to GC General Commercial, second reading.
Move to approve.
Second. Jason, Henry. Any discussion there? Seeing none, council please vote.
Ryan, I see your request for the waiving of the third. Is there like a? Will they not be able to build this or something if we don't waive this?
No, they'll still be able to build. It's to continue the process of closing on the property in order to continue with the project. So it's still under Westfield Development. They're closing middle part of March, if I'm not mistaken. So proceeding through the third hearing
And it
would help.
close the middle of March?
What's that?
You say they're gonna close the middle of March?
I believe so, or the first part of March, one of the two. But this would help continue with that process on schedule so that they can still do construction and demolition this year. And start moving towards building the new structure there. When we had our meetings for planning and zoning, we had no complaints from anybody, and it just helps clean up the zoning in that area. So that was the reason for the proceeding to the third hearing or third reading this go around.
Seems harmless enough. Do we have any precedent for skipping the third one because of request of a property owner?
I recall. Ryan, have we ever skipped for a closing? We have. Can't think of anybody specific. Oh, Andy, you good?
Jane's out there too. He got 3.
I think that he's like,
West,
yeah, but it's
West.
It's West Lincoln, like,
it's Westlake away.
yeah.
It's
Nevada,
west.
Sharpsburg, 1, 2, 3, like.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm sorry, West Lincoln here.
That got me good. That's a good one. I think my eye crossed at that point, so.
Can you think of a specific example that we've done it before? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, once it's all done, it's gonna be a great addition to our community, so. It's Bunch of nice idea that's gonna happen there, so. I moved to waive the third option, or third reading, excuse me.
I'll second that.
Jason, Steve, discussion on that? None, council please vote. It's approved. Takes us to D, ordinance number 1052, 2023-2024. An ordinance amending chapter 41, public health and safety of the city code by adding language pertaining to storage tanks, second reading.
Move to approve.
Dane. Second. Henry. Discussion.
I do have one question about this. If we are gonna put this into effect, how deep are we gonna dive into other underground tanks in the city? We're gonna investigate every single one? Are we just gonna?
Yeah, do you have one specific that you're referring to?
Necessarily, I don't know. Lincoln Highway was strewn with gas stations.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're right,
Stroma
yeah.
gas stations.
I think what we could do is we could look at the historic maps and see what other places that do have it.
Just
the
don't want
one
this to be
place-
being passed for one specific place.
Yeah, no, it's not for one specific place. I think we will be looking at other areas of the community and making sure that it is, but I would have to check with Ray to see if he actually knows of any other underground storage tanks that we have, but
Those are the only two places in town that have tanks in them?
I would have to check for the other underground tank.
Okay.
I know I could-
That's what we were asking. Abandoned tanks.
I'll check.
Okay.
Mine might have different-
We found one during construction of Lincoln Highway, which it was removed with the assistance of the DNR giving its blessing. There's two other tanks that we have right now. One is at the old Dairy Queen building, which is being mitigated with a specialty company as well as the DNR. The other one that I'm aware of is at the corner of Eighth and Lincoln on the east side of the road, which is now Grimm Chiropractic. There's a tank under there, but that has also been mitigated through the DNR and everything like that. So we have possibly one or two more that still exist, which would require just doing some research on if
As
they
long as,
were.
like I said, as long as we're doing
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
across the board and
Yeah.
not just for a specific place.
No, there's been quite a few of them that have gone through the DNR for mitigation, and it's just a couple of them haven't. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Ray. All I had.
Anything else? Seeing none, council please vote. Approved. Takes us to E, resolution number 52, 2023-2024. Resolution authorizing deed to dispose of real property.
And this is just cleanup. This was an action that you guys took last fall on the Second Van Howling property, the sale to Van Wall. And when the plat of survey was completed, the legal description changed slightly. So this is just cleanup to make sure that the resolution and the deed have the same legal as the plat of survey.
Move to approve.
Second. Steve, discussion. Council, please vote. Approved. Takes us to new business A, approve amendment to HR Green Master Agreement 19th Street Trail up to 38,500.
Move to approve.
Second. Dane. Discussion there. None, council, please vote. Approved. Takes us to B, approve amendment to HR Green Master Agreement 2024 Street Improvement Project up to 16,500.
Move to approve.
Second. Jason and Dane. Discussion there, council, please vote. Approved. C, resolution number 53, 2023-2024. Resolution setting date of a meeting at which it is proposed to approve a development agreement with Feltner Properties LC, including annual appropriation tax increment payments.
Move to approve.
second,
And Henry,
So this is just to have the meeting, right? Is that what?
setting that, yeah.
Yep.
Their discussion. Please vote. Approved. Takes us to D, resolution number 54, 2023-2024. Resolution to provide for a notice of hearing on proposed plans, specifications, forms of contract, and estimate of cost for the F Avenue and G Avenue Street Rehabilitation Project and the taking of bids therefore.
I'll move to approve.
Second. Dane. Discussion. None. Council, please vote. Approved. Takes us to E, discussion appropriate follow-up regarding animal sheltering services contract.
So I hope I provided everything in the council agenda. But I was looking at the animal sheltering services that we have and asked to update that to make sure everything's still current. Sent everything out to any entity in the city of Nevada and got the responses back based off of what we did get back using the consideration, which was page 2 of that documentation. I'm requesting going with Story County Animal Shelter. When this was last visited, the shelter was not as large as it is now, and their improvements have made it available that they could provide services for us, and they have some options that are suitable or appeasing for us. So answer any questions about it if you have.
Looks like Sherry's already working with them to help them, so it's kind of like we're getting both, best of both worlds.
Correct. The community vet clinic doesn't have the staffing or the facilities that could house, but she does provide emergency care to them. And in doing so, if we go with them, would also provide emergency services for us.
Sounds good. Good job on that one.
Thanks for working on that. I know it's been an issue for a while.
Like a decade, I feel like we revisit this.
We'd be looking for council. So resolution number 55, 2023-2024, a resolution approving animal care agreement. So that's assuming you want to fill in Story County Animal Shelter.
Yeah, move to approve with the Story County Animal Shelter.
Second. Jason, Dane. Okay. No other discussion, council, please vote. That is approved. Takes us to F, approved purchase of zero-turn mower for Parks Department.
I'd just be happy to answer any questions you have. This is kind of an ongoing part of our equipment revolving program. We do this on a regular basis. We have tried to stretch out the number of years between purchases over the last couple. So this particular unit is 7 years old, and we'll use it up through the spring until we would take the new one in. Be happy to answer any questions you have.
Tim, the quote on the X mark was a little ambiguous. Did that price they wrote on there, that included our trade-in? So it's like a $4,000 difference, apples to apples. Yep. Thank you for finding a lower cost solution.
What we aim to do.
Mhm.
I'll move to approve. Second. Henry. Discussion.
Yes, option 1, sorry.
Council, please vote. Rate is going, you might get to mow next week. But at the rate it's going, you might get to mow next week.
Or shovel.
G, approved purchase of new permit software for planning and zoning department.
So, I reached out for 3 different bids. What I was looking for in a cloud-based permitting stuff was one that I could do my permits with. I could do nuisances, and I could do our rental code that we have. So right now our software is only for permits. The nuisances are held on an Excel file and updated via, labor. And then right now we don't have any platform for our rental inspections and things like that. And that's kind of what has held us up. Doing an Excel file for so many entries like that, as well as follow-ups and things like that, is not practical in my opinion. The 3 bids that I got for you were very similar in what they provided. Pricing was a little different in the fact that some wanted more money up front and less on a yearly subscription, and other way around. The one that I recommended was Cloud Permit, and they provided a couple big key things that I was looking for. Reminders for mail outs and things like that is all a part of their program, as well as crafting and documenting that stuff. So it's also like in the name, it's cloud-based, so I can not, you know, when I'm out doing an inspection, I can document that stuff right away. Instead of bringing it back, loading it onto the computer and going from there. Like I said, our permit-based stuff right now isn't able to add pictures. You can add notes, but pulling information from there is like holding down one of my poor kids, so it's egregious.
You're pretty confident there'll be some efficiency savings by having the software?
I don't think my eye will cross as much anymore, but yeah, it would
That's
be,
good. We don't want
yeah.
that.
Don't have to
it'll
buy as
be-
many crayons either, right?
It would be much more functional and not, you know, not for me right now, you know, not only for me now, but down the road. It's a platform that can be built upon itself. It utilizes a lot of our GIS stuff that we already have. You can add different aspects to it. Down the road, we can add signs and fire hydrants and document that kind of stuff where, you know, we can replace those things. It'll send a reminder. It'll flag that information for us. You know, if you want to ask me, you know, how many houses we built in 2024, I can bring up a graph to show you where it's been the last 5 years, where now I'm printing out 400 pages and going through and highlighting each one of them, because not all of them are saved as new houses. Some of them are saved as additions and things like that. It's hard to extract that information to show you how our town is growing and what rates it is. So that was a big one that I was looking for this permitting service. So the pricing is comparable to what the other ones are. It's the lowest per year in updates and things like that.
I'd make a motion to adopt number one option, cloud permit.
Second.
Jason? Discussion, council, please vote. And it's approved. Takes us to H, approved new Class E retail alcohol license for Legacy Liquor Mart LLC DBA Legacy Liquor Mart, 1038 6th Street, effective January 15th, 2024. First person to speak on that is Anam Faraz.
Hi, my name is Autumn Feroz, and I was appointed as manager from the owner. And we are trying to open up a future Legacy Mart here in Nevada. And we're excited to have a one-stop shop for everyone and their needs, like within like the time of day. Sometimes it's late and you got to go to Ames to get some painkillers, but we'll have like access things from food to gifts and home supply as well. Our goal is to not only serve the people of Nevada, but also bring in some good business. And we've decided on no kratom and or bongs due to the stigma that is placed around that. But everything that we will sell is legal, and along with that, it will fit within the city's guidelines. We just want a friendly environment where everyone is welcome and they can get their needs and wants. And also, we would love to acknowledge anything that people would want to bring into the store, because we are open to any additions as well.
Questions at this time?
So what relation are you to the person who is actually applying for the license?
He's my
Night-
dad.
Is that your dad?
He's my dad,
Yep.
yeah.
Are you you're going to manage the store then? You'll be the manager?
So he is normally in Missouri because he has some business down there. So sometimes I just fill in if he needs help. So kind of like a supervisor / manager.
And thanks for coming to talk to us. If you don't mind, I have a couple more questions for
Yeah,
you.
of course.
It appears that your father lives at the same address as the people who ran Neighborhood Liquors in Ames who had some problems with their liquor license.
Yeah.
Is there a relationship there?
So the contract for Neighborhood Liquor Mart is my brother. He is the one who is under that. And it is completely unrelated to this store,
Okay.
which I don't like to associate both of those. And there were issues with the liquor license, and I do believe like it's not an easy thing. And I've seen the struggle. It's not like my brother would want, like, he put so much investment into one thing and want that to go down just to sell it to like some underage child. Like that's not like as a business person and as someone who has put in so much into one thing and then losing all of it is pretty tough. Not our intention at all.
So you're confident that your staff will have plans in place to
Yes,
follow the law related to underage?
yes. We have implemented many different devices, especially in that store. I also swing by over there too to help him out. So like once we scan anything that's within the system that is either if it's tobacco or if it's liquor, it doesn't let you go forward unless you enter in the birth date of the individual, and that's only possible if you see their ID.
Does your father own any other liquor stores as well?
He owns, or I think it's on rent in Springfield, Missouri, and those are, one of them is a gas station. Actually, I believe both of them are gas stations. So it's kind of underneath like Conoco and those kind of businesses.
I did find some reference to him having another business that he had a liquor license for. And I don't know how much you know about it. Do you know if his liquor license has been suspended or revoked in the last 2 years?
To be completely honest, I haven't talked to him on this matter. I can definitely ask, but I'm not sure.
I put you on the
No,
spot.
it's okay. It's okay. I mean, I study here, and he kind of struggles there to be able to pay for our schooling and stuff here. So he kind of wants to stay here. We've been kind of separate for around 13 years, so it's been kind of hard. So that's why he's trying to move his business over here. Yeah.
So he's currently living in Ames as well, or planning to?
Planning to.
Okay. Yeah, so he'd be a semi-local owner of the business. Yeah. Just to explain, I guess, why I'm asking the questions is part of our responsibility as the city council is to establish that a person is fit to have a liquor license. And it's not, we're not picking on anybody. It's just
No, I
part of our due
completely
diligence
understand.
to make sure that process happens. And just part of my search turned up that there were some issues with the liquor license in Missouri, which may not amount to anything.
Hmm.
But I don't know the details on it. I'd be interested in knowing that. Nice to know that if we could somehow to, I guess, establish that the person applying here is of good character and will follow the laws.
Yeah. It's something where it's the amount of training an owner puts into having their employees be on top of it every single time is not, I know his efforts, and I've seen my brother's efforts, and it's hard to be the person in some employee's head saying like, you need to do this, even though we have signs, we have an ID checker. It's just like, it kind of unexplainable. But I do believe that with this new system that we've implemented in the other store, it will make it almost impossible. Like, there is no possible way.
That's what we like to hear.
Yeah.
Any other questions now? We can always ask them if you think of more. You have another card.
Yeah, that's all for now. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next up would be Luke Spence.
Good evening, Luke Spence, 732 J Avenue. I'm not going to repeat all the data and research I spoke about that I sent you last month in regards to the ill effects of high density presence, access, and marketing of all the products we're speaking about tonight and their effects on increased use and abuse among both adults and minors in the community. So I hope that information could just be considered submitted for this case as well. The case of this license approval compared to the ones from last month are not identical. Not only is this location more critical, being directly in the heart of our community, but it also comes with an ownership group with a checkered past. Allow me to go through the timeline for you step by step. Neighborhood Liquor and Smokes is a shop in West Ames, has had 4 documented instances by the Ames PD of selling liquor or tobacco products to an underage person. They were in March of 2021, February of 2022, October of 2022, and September of 2023. That's 4 instances in 2.5 years. After the second instance, the ABD, which is the Iowa Alcohol, and suspended their license for 30 days in May of 2022 and imposed a fine of $1,500. After the third instance, the ABD suspended their license for 60 days and an additional $1,500 fine. On November 8th of 2022, their license came up for renewal and the city of Ames denied the renewal application. The owners appealed this, and as a part of the Iowa code, they are allowed to continue selling alcohol or tobacco until they've exhausted the appeal process. The 4th instance that I mentioned of selling to an underage person occurred in that time frame. On November 9th, 2023, the ABD affirmed the denial of the city of Ames, which is to say they agreed with the city of Ames. And to quote the ruling judge, I'm quoting the judge here. These violations in the complaints and statements of concerned citizens and Chief Huff at the city council meeting, that's the Ames City Council meeting on November 8th, 2022, leads to the conclusion that neighborhood does not have a quote good reputation in the community, but in fact has a poor reputation. That's the judge's words. Exactly 1 week later, on November 16th, 2023, that's 3 months ago, the paperwork to create Legacy Liquor Mart were filed with the state Secretary of State's office. That's the timeline. The ownership has obviously not addressed the issues of selling to underage people. A summary of their excuses are employee's phone wasn't working, so couldn't properly scan IDs. At the time, they required employees to use an app on their phone to verify the legitimacy of the ID that was provided for them. Of course, there's also a date on the ID that they could look at themselves without an app. Employee was new and was still becoming familiar with the procedures. Third excuse, a terminated employee was allowed to finish a shift and sold to a minor to get back at the owner. Seems a bit hard to believe that somebody would commit a crime to get back at their employee after they were fired. In one case, it was observed that an employee scanned the underage ID, saw on their screen, which I think might be the system that we've been talking about, a red indication on the screen on the cash register that indicated they were a minor and sold to them anyway. All of these show a lack of properly managing and training employees for almost 3 years. Now, Neighborhood Liquor and Smokes in Ames was registered, and I hope I get these names correct. I apologize if I don't. Farhat and Hamza Feroz, with an address of 1410 Panoramic Court in Ames. The person on this application here in Nevada is Naeem Feroz of 1410 Panoramic Court in Ames. This is obviously the same family with the same plan to run the same business under a different name. Part of the state requirements for a license are to demonstrate good moral character. They fail to meet this standard in 2 separate areas. The first I outlined when the judge's statement earlier, when they stated that they have a poor reputation in complying with the law. The second piece of that is to not have had financial interest in a license that has been revoked. It is obvious that this owner has had financial interest in the Ames store. Mr. Feroz, who's the name on the license that we're talking about, said so himself in the court hearing when he testified that the store provides income for himself and his mother and provides money for his siblings' tuition to attend college. This is a quote from the testimony in that court case. Losing the liquor license would negatively impact the store's revenue and consequently his family's income. That's from the testimony. They have proven to be unable to abide by the state laws multiple times. They do not properly hire, train, or supervise their employees to follow the law. They do not meet the requirements for approval of this application, and you should not approve this license tonight. Thank you.
Council, any questions for Luke?
Luke, I appreciate everything you said, and I read a lot of those same things as well, but the name on this application does not have a direct connection to the names of the owners of the other store. Everything that it's all part of living in the same address and having the same family name is really the connection.
And as I said, I think having a financial interest, when you live in the same house, your family has an interest in your income as mine does with mine. So I think it's easy to say that you have a financial interest in the incomes coming into your house, which is part of the stipulation in the law.
Little thin to reject just for that reason alone, but I appreciate everything you're
Well,
saying
I
completely.
guess my question there would be more to Aaron about legally what the financial interest definition would be.
Yeah, I mean, the financial interest they're talking about is if you have an ownership interest that you're taking money from the company, not the familial relationship, but I mean, I appreciate, I read the case too. And I have some of those background facts, so I appreciate all the work that you put into that.
Questions? Or discussion or questions for staff?
Have we done a background check on the applicant? Do we have any information?
Okay, so again, I'll apologize if I mispronounce any names, but the applicant is Naheem. There, as we've gone through that, we do background checks, driver's license checks, go to Iowa Courts Online, issues like that. So if you are actually searching by Naeem's name on Iowa Courts Online, there's not a lot that you'll see. You'll see a posting from 2005, which has been brought up in conversation as far as articles and whatnot. Naeem's middle name is Muhammad. He's also known as Muhammad, and there's filings for that. That also will bring up a 2005 case that I'm sure people have found and read about in the newspaper and names. For the most part, if you look at Iowa Code 123, one of the subsections is cannot be convicted of a felony. There are no felony convictions related to this. Every subsection of Iowa 123 has been reviewed based off the applicant's name and that applicant's information. So the background has been done, and we did not find grounds under Iowa Code to reject the application.
I've got a question. I think Ryan Hutton probably would be the one to speak to this. I did have a couple of concerned citizens reach out specifically about the condition of the building. I know that they had an inspection at one point for the facade grant, but I guess I'm just curious about the depth of that inspection, and especially the concerns around the back of the building not looking the best. Could you possibly speak to that?
Right, so you're talking about the backside of the building towards the alleyway. There's a crack in the facade there. When family owners of the building applied for a grant, we had a engineer come through to look at the facade to see if it is able to be rehabbed and put back to what it looked like when the building was first built. I had a couple questions about structural issues in the front of the building, and the engineer stated that it is able to be rehabbed. It's not the worst building that he's ever rehabbed in that aspect. We were able to go downstairs to the basement as well as upstairs to the second floor. He had a lot of positive things to say about the ability to rehab this building. The investment would be worthwhile. It would open up the second story. Yeah, his findings weren't that it is anywhere close to being catastrophically a failure on the facade. The building itself structurally is sound. So more or less what he found is the appearance can be fixed and remedied. The structure of the building as in its entirety is in good standing.
Guess I'd feel a lot better and I appreciate Adam very much coming and speaking with us tonight. I'd feel a lot better if Naeem was here himself to maybe provide some more detail about the questions I have about his business in Missouri that shows some potential liquor license issues. So what happens? Now, the way I'm sitting right now, I'm struggling to approve this based on all of the information we have. So what happens if we reject this? This goes to,
Yeah, so if it's rejected, it can be appealed through the ABD department. There's several levels of appeal through that department, and then ultimately the final level of appeal would be through the district court. So it's a long haul of appeals.
I honestly don't know how I'm gonna vote right now. I'm a little frustrated. We've as a council been told, and I've been told several times, this was gonna be a grocery store and an office supply store that's also going to sell alcohol. And then I got my council packet, and on the application, we checked the box liquor store. Grocery stores there, convenience stores there, and they checked liquor store. Now, that isn't necessarily grounds for saying no, but it is very frustrating to have these conversations in the community and then open up my packet and here we are, Legacy Liquor Mart, and we're a liquor store. So I don't know how I'm gonna vote, but it's frustrating. Yeah.
Yes. Every conversation we're having is always.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's
right.
Conversation.
And I guess kind of to that end, I kind of go back to where Steve's at, where I wish that maybe the owner had been here, had communicated with us. Right. I mean, obviously you're trying to talk about your tenant and we get that, but just having that transparency from them to be able to have those conversations too. So I'm not.
I just wanted to.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
so Jim, can I address you, Jim? As the building owner, we certainly want to support your efforts to rehabilitate the old Ben Franklin building and, obviously make that into something worthwhile for the community. What are your feelings on this owner's ability to operate a business that truly belongs in Nevada and will be for the good of the community and not a detriment?
Sure. And I'm not addressing
Yeah.
it, but he wasn't gonna be able to. He doesn't want. Saturday, no, they're my dad's. a question for them, they obviously don't want to have some. Like, I think is a nice. Brother still wants to be active. All we've ever wanted. Yes. Given the if it's something else. Participate on. And as far as thing that
I appreciate it. I can tell you're passionate about it. You know, just a couple of things, a couple of thoughts I had. One, the city council will not reject a liquor license just because we don't like what a business sells legally. That cannot happen. So, you know, we're not up here, you know, making decisions on what can and can't be sold in Nevada unless it's illegal, of course. You know, and I've got a ton of respect for your family name here in Nevada. Don't get me wrong. If you had brought us probably a different operator for this, it'd be a slam dunk. We'd be like, yeah, let's get something in Ben Franklin. Let's get it going. But you brought us, and you know, there's not a direct connection, but there's a connection of kind of the most notorious liquor store owners in recent history in Ames that, you know, have documented, as Luke you know, stated well, have documented issues with compliance with state liquor laws. So you kind of put us in a tough situation here where we want to support you and the business, you know, your business of renting this building and making, having revenue off of it, but not gonna lie, it feels a little sketchy. You're not gonna get rich?
So, you know. Twelve months in advance. Parole felons. Not a good fit for downtown. Focus somebody like this. And so those are some, you know. Hard to lure somebody down. Especially like a retail. Back downtown. Our general public up here. Also problem to the community. Last thing I want for my dad.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Can approach that voting there. And just
Policies and everything goes here, so I apologize if
just
this
name and
is-
address so Aaron can
Okay.
capture it too.
Jim, right? Is that your name? I'm Peyton. I operate Sweet and Savory down the street. I don't have any problems with you. I don't really know your family that well. I just have a question for you that I hope you can honestly answer, is that if this turns into an only liquor store with painkillers as a draw-in, are you going to shut it down? Cause I'm totally open to the groceries. I think it is an addition to the community, but just a liquor store with a couple extra things, I just don't see the full benefit. And I know you weren't like pitched that, and I know that you're not expecting that. But from the outsiders, from what we are hearing, we're hearing liquor store. And so that's concerning. Yep.
See, like I said earlier. Already knows about all this. I mean, I think that
So I guess just to ask you again, is that like you're our filter basically? So if it turns into this, can we trust that you will handle that problem? Tylenol, like. Yep. Yeah, the painkillers, whatever type they are, and liquor, that's all good. We need more offerings than that. Like you said, it's a huge space and it's a beautiful space and it is in the heart of our downtown. And I see several business owners here that we love this Main Street. We want to be here and we just want it to keep going in the right direction. Perfect. Thank you so much.
I guess a follow-up question too that I have, so on the drawing we have, it does look primarily liquor. So are you saying that because it has beverage coolers, walk-in coolers, retail liquor sales all the way around the outside? So is that different from that's basically the map is different from what we're hearing?
So like.
I guess I have a question because it just ties in with the LLC and doing business as. What are you planning to do business as, for a business name? Thank you.
Jason, did you? The name and address for them to capture?
Jason Mitchell, Nevada resident, father of three. I guess I am kind of getting concerned with the amount of liquor and tobacco products becoming available to kids. I watched a girl roll out of a car yesterday. She maybe looked 11, vaping. I'm not here to complain about that. One of my questions just got answered. It was about the name of the facility. Why are we calling it a liquor mart? You said it's Legacy Mart. Okay. I was wondering why we were going to call it a liquor mart when it's going to be a grocery store. My other question is both Jim and Herb said that they're not going to do kratom, bongs, or whatever else. I'm not familiar with that stuff. I know what the purpose is. Is there a difference in tobacco license? She sat here and said, no, they're not going to do that. Can they bring that in 6 months from now? Do we have to review their license? Or does it not matter? Is it all under one umbrella?
It's actually on the agenda for this evening, both the liquor
Next.
and the cigarette tobacco.
Okay.
Mhm.
But
That's all I
Kratom
have.
is not regulated under either of those
That's correct.
licenses.
The kratom is not regulated.
It's completely different.
Yeah, Kratom is
Not regulated at all by the
The
state.
only, what Jim has said is that that they won't be allowed to under their lease, so the Kratom and the bongs.
Under
Right, Jim, sorry, no, I don't speak for you, but.
And that's all under the lease, and we can't see that, obviously, I'm not gonna ask to see that, but it's just your word of mouth, right? At this time? I don't need to see it, I just had that one question about the name. Okay. Sounds good. My questions were answered. I appreciate it.
Where do you live? You're gonna bring, how are you gonna? No. Property managers. That's all we want, there's a lot of property there. How people love it.
We're gonna have, okay, instead of debating each other out there, we're gonna have, you can direct comments to council and they can ask questions, but we're not gonna do audience debate.
Walk in, grab a case of beer and walk right out of Main Street. I don't want anybody selling beer to minors. Practical respect. I was 17 in this.
Name and address.
Hi, I'm Jessica Krupika. I'm in Nevada, Iowa. I find this all very misleading. I don't understand the timing of having, 3 liquor stores come into Nevada very quickly. And then also being misled about this being a grocery store and then turns into, sounds very more heavily on the liquor side of things. I don't feel like this has a place in downtown Nevada, and it's a really cool community. I lived in small Northwest Iowa, came to Iowa State University, went to California, went to East Coast, came back here. I'm really excited about this Main Street. Eventually, I'd like to open a business of my own on Main Street, but I can't say I'd be as excited about a place like this. And also too, we have some really wonderful businesses and small businesses in this community that have invested a lot of money, time, sweat equity in here to just have this be something that they're not really sure about, that they're questioning, you know, why they did this. Because I mean, I think that this is a really amazing Main Street. So I just would like maybe more information on this as well. But just to know that, like, I don't feel like this is a great opportunity for our Main Street. We have a lot of respect in the community for this. And then also I just don't have a good feeling about it. It's just not transparent to me. And I'm also a baker at Bricktown Bakery. I'm there a lot of hours, different times of the night. I wonder about my safety and the safety of our teammates as well. So I'm just not a fan of this.
One question I have for Aaron too, if they're saying they might change the name, but we have a DBA on here, can that be amended?
That can be amended. Yep. There's a notice requirement when there's a change of name, so they would have to go through that process. Likely, I'm guessing they'll do a fictitious name through the Secretary of State, so that would still be the legal name, and there would just be a fictitious name.
Hopefully that, the last folks told us they weren't gonna put up certain signage and they did anyway, so we would hope that if this is approved, that the commitment we have for the name would be followed through on. Luke?
I hope the council considers the two sides of the coin that we're hearing, where we're supposed to rely on the building owner to regulate what is or is not being sold when it comes to kratom and other things that have been named, but we're not going to rely on them to regulate the sale to underage minors for alcohol and tobacco. I don't know how we can rely on one for the other, but not for both. That's two sides of a coin that I don't think we can stand on if we're going to make this decision tonight.
So kind of to circle this whole conversation back to what we're actually voting on, like the kratom matter, while we don't like it, while we have your assurances, at the end of the day, the government doesn't regulate that anyway. So we don't have a way to say yes or no on that. So I know, and I appreciate that. And I'm not, but the question is the alcohol license here. And kind of just to bring it back, I think we've all said a lot of things tonight. Kind of getting back to Steve's point about the legal background, that's my big concern. So I wish we had more information on that.
Missouri in particular.
Right.
Annam, do you think there's any chance that Naeem would come speak to the council if we postpone the vote 2 weeks? So part of the qualifications for liquor license is that the applicant is in control of the store. I mean, be in control of the store and not your brother or uncle. Thank you.
When you mentioned our stores, which stores were you referring to? Thanks.
Tom?
Tom Richards, 723rd Street. The name Fred Samuelson is a beloved name in this community. And that's all up in the air now because of you.
Okay,
Hold on, this needs to be said. There are people in this room that are unbelievable rumors about me, Tom, and absolutely false and blank. And there are people sitting here that have told their employees that my father is incoherent, incapable of doing anything, and that I've come back to railroad him, make a decision. Absolutely not true. 100% not. Don't make these decisions. That's a dust. That's, of course, it's gonna offer dirt one. Talk about the other things that they're going to offer. And I don't understand why. That's fine to you. What was going on, everything was fine. But why? You're sitting here saying that I'm here destroying.
okay. We're gonna ask the discussion to stay focused on the items pertaining to the liquor license, which is good reputation of the applicant.
There you go.
Andy?
Yeah. Brett touched on it. This is supposed to be a discussion on the liquor license. Separately, it bothers me as a business owner how much people think they should have sway over somebody else's personal property. It was a downtown retail area, and it's Fred's free and clear. Liquor license is one thing. You can accept it, you can deny it. But what everybody wants done with that building is easily solvable by somebody else owning the building. Otherwise, it's Fred's building to do as he wishes. And I've been dealing with Fred. There's no ill will on his part. There's no negligence on his part. There's no absent-mindedness on his part. He's very deliberate on what he's had doing us. And he's spending money on it. He's still investing. 53 years, as far as I know, he's never received any government money for anything. There's no part of that building that you guys own. Whether or not you're happy with what got put on the application, that's between them and Fred. There's no city money that I believe the grant application's been delayed, right? It's not in the works right now. He's not even looking at future money at the moment. This is Fred's building. So you can accept or deny the liquor license. But if you're wanting a retail business going into a retail space that somebody else owns, that's his business.
Ricardo Martinez II, 255 West E Avenue. I've heard lots of rumors about what the building's gonna be, what they're gonna have, all that kind of stuff. Some I like, some I don't like. But the bottom line is, as Andy said, It's Fred's business. It's his building. He can do what he wants with it. If they're not selling anything illegal, whether you like it or not, they can do that. If we're gonna have lots of liquor stores, some of them are gonna close. Okay. And that's commerce. That's just the way it works. But my question to Aaron is, if the council doesn't grant this, whether it's tonight or 2 weeks from tonight, and it goes to appeal, because if it was my business, that's what I would do. How long does it take and what kind of money are we looking to spend for this? And does it have a real shot of not going into business? I mean, what's the chances of winning this if it goes to litigation?
So in terms of the time, it's gonna depend on how quickly the ABD can get in front of this, right? And so, I mean, typically litigation is 2 years plus. So that doesn't even take into account the first steps of appeal that are through the division as opposed to when you get to the district court. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars in attorney's fees for the city. I think that the thing that the ABD is going to look at is the commonality of ownership. And I know Steve's, you know, he's brought a lot of good information to the table. Luke, you did as well. I think that's going to be the thing that they focus on to say, you know, is there any commonality of ownership? And I'm not able to see that tonight. I know there's family relations, but in terms of ownership of the shop and names and ownership of the proposed store here, there doesn't appear to be any common ownership. I think I don't know that I can give it a chance of success that's higher than 50%.
And if they win their appeal, assuming that it goes to appeal, what liability does the city have for holding up their license for the entire time that it's been litigated?
A good question.
I would say if you're not letting me open my door and a year and a half down the road, I win my case, I'm going back to the city and gonna want a year and a half of revenue that I would have got if it would have been approved.
I'm sure that would be the ask.
So, and we brought on some great points that I don't disagree with everything he says. I mean, it makes sense. I understand that. And Jim has talked about the concerns that he has and he wants to address, and I don't have any issues with that. I just don't want the city to get caught up into something that's going to look ugly and bad and in the end lose. I have a little experience of litigation, so I'm familiar with that. And Jim mentioned that the police department will monitor that sort of thing, you know, go and do compliance checks, things like that. But I'm sure Chris would agree that we don't have a lot of resources and we can't do that. And we can't just pick out one business without doing all the other businesses. That's discriminatory. You know, and there's been a lot of businesses, and at least during the time that I was here, that sold to underage people, and they had fines and they did the things they're supposed to do. And she hasn't said anything that nobody else is doing. Technology is a great thing, but it's not impossible. Okay, if somebody wants to sell something to somebody, they're going to do it and bypass all that technology. But it's not worth it. And I don't think they're going to do that either. And they're also going to be under the microscope. They open up next week, everybody's going to be watching them, what they're doing, how they're selling, who's going in there, all that sort of thing. You know, and everybody downtown, whether they like it or not, keeps an eye on everybody else. And so if they see something, they're going to say something. So that's all I got to say.
So in summary, we have assurances from the ownership or, you know, representative for the ownership. We have assurances from the building owner that it'll be a good business. We have Aaron's opinion on what might happen if we reject it and they appeal. My opinion, we probably need to approve this. I do not want to pull the rug out from under Jim and his dad, you know, someone investing in a downtown building. Is it optimal? Maybe not, but It's what it is. Think unless somebody else has significant to add, maybe we should move on. Vote on this thing.
Yeah, name and address and she'll get it over there.
1105 6th Street. Kitty corner from the Ben Franklin building. I guess what he's saying is we kind of come down to, have to approve it, it's not matter if I don't know, another third one. And being put in our downtown district where the work hard. I mean, I've invested in a building. Messing around, we're pretty serious. I hope, I have high hopes, I really hope that it's gonna be a nice little convenience store. But just. The fact that on the application, they put liquor. The association in names. They're willing to change like right now, those are great flags to me, but I am an entrepreneur by my heart, I believe people should be able to start businesses, they should. I talked with a good friend today, he said, Paula said, we should live in a country. Start a business, rent their building out and all that, and I said, I agree, but it's still in my heart, it still doesn't feel like. A thing that's going to benefit and edify our downtown, where we're working so hard on our Main Street district. Businesses that have invested in a brand new business, Sweet and Savory, that's putting their livelihood on the line and opening a store. And better, I'm just that I could get more excited about. And so parents are wonderful people, and Ben Franklin, people love the Ben Franklin. Something like the Ben Franklin again, oh, that would be amazing. But red flags to me, just to rethink those. And maybe you just have to pass it on through. Maybe it is all about whether there'll be a lawsuit and all that. Maybe it's all about that. Maybe it's not really about what people think they want. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents worth. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening to all this.
And thanks, Paula, for saying that, and to you and to Luke and to a lot of other folks. I mean, a lot of good things have been said tonight. Not every vote we take feels good. Not every vote. And at the end of the day, we have to, at least for me, I can't speak for everybody else. We have to think about how we're spending taxpayer money. And when we even talk about things like, say, the field house, for instance, some people are going to disagree with that, but we're all voting from a place of trying to help the community. And so, we talk about all the spending priorities that the city has, streets, programming, et cetera, services. And basically, and Brian said this when we talked about the first 2 shops, the state kind of ties our hands. They say, here's the bar, approve or deny, so the whole city, I mean, we can be against it, and we still have to decide, is it worth potentially getting sued in the tens of thousands of dollars that Aaron referenced?
But if the reputation of the person is turn it off,
Mhm.
that is the reason that it could, or investigated more. It's probably wondering, could they make sure that the owner, the actual man that's gonna be, I mean, this is great. He comes. Would that be a good idea?
I do wish he was here tonight.
I think that could answer questions we have about Missouri, which I think is the only outstanding thing we haven't
Is it
had
possible
good background on.
to wait for the next
Yes.
meeting to discuss? Because I really would like to have him here to speak on it, just because I think it would clear things up and just really help with this, because without having him here, it's difficult to address, I guess, some of these concerns and some of these questions. And so that's more what I'm just curious if that's still.
You think that's pretty possible for him to make it in 2 weeks?
We can add, well, assuming the Zoom is working, we can add that as an option.
Zoom? A lot of Zoom? All right. Gotta ask.
So what's the consensus? Table it, next meeting?
I would like answers
Well,
about,
and I think part of it is, do we have enough in Missouri, like, and that might be an Aaron question. That should you get more information, could that be one of the grounds or not?
what
I
was
mean,
the
if it wouldn't be the grounds anyway, because it was too long ago or not.
Years.
I think that's the question. I mean, one of the prongs of the good moral character is a revocation within the past 2 years. I haven't looked into Missouri at all, so I can't speak to
Did we
that.
have a time frame on that one?
Yeah. I'll give that stuff, yeah. Time frame was, sorry, 3/24/22. Like that.
Is it a revocation?
Or is it?
It was a suspension.
Yeah, I think the question will just be how Missouri law operates versus Iowa law,
Yeah, see, I don't know.
and I don't know that
And
either.
it's difficult from this to tell what the suspension was for. It's not very descriptive. That's why Naeem might be able to clear that up for us.
Quite 2 years ago.
Yeah, just shy of 2 years.
March 24th, yeah.
Does our code say just revocation or is it suspension too?
The language. Revoked. The language is revoked.
So not suspended. Well, I will say I do trust our public safety department to enforce ordinances and rules and laws. For what that's worth, I do think it's a good point that they're gonna be under a microscope. I'm not making the motion.
No,
Nope,
no.
Suspended.
it shows suspended.
And Iowa code has revocation as one of the grounds. No.
Thing. Spoken about the cost to the taxpayers for. Which I completely, that's a very strong consideration. Remember the things I talked about last month about the potential cost. To the community. Access increase. Cost of that brings. Well, it's not far. As I outlined. It's far out, see. The numbers.
Luke, I get that point. My only thought in response to that is, ultimately, do we have a strong enough case to win or lose? And if they win, they open up anyway, and we've cost the city that money. And that's the balance in really, I guess, the decision that ultimately, at least I'm gonna make. What that's worth.
So.
Tabling it?
So, I mean, if we table it, I assume we're tabling it so we can get answers on the Missouri question.
And yeah, what Aaron's opinion of what we currently have or if we need more.
Well, I mean, based on what we currently have, I don't think that it meets
Right.
it meets any of the prongs. But I haven't had a chance to verify any of this information, so.
So is moving it back 2 weeks going to change anything, I guess is the question at that point? Or are we just gonna have this meeting again in 2 weeks and say all the same things over again?
Afraid we might. You know, based on all the information we have here, you know, there's some things that are kind of in the neighborhood of, you know, the good character part of it, but I, you know, Karen has said it pretty clearly. Doesn't appear any of these things are strong enough. The person who is applying for this liquor license, their name is nowhere on the liquor license for Neighborhood Liquors in Ames. So, you know, there is no legal connection other than they have the same address as each other, the home address, which not much. So based on what we've seen here, probably have to approve it.
I wish it was ABD's decision to make since they wrote the rules.
I wish they had a little more detail on the rules.
That too.
They're pretty simple, with a lot of interpretation. But does anybody want to make a motion or do I need to do that?
You've been kind of leading this thing here tonight, so
Yeah.
just go right ahead.
So you want me to do all the work? I do all the work and you guys sit there. Is that how this is?
Who wants to run for council? Anyone?
Really salty.
Don't ask me. I'll make a motion to approve the liquor license for the newly named Legacy Mart. Actually, it'll still have to be Legacy Liquors until, yeah.
Second.
You and Jason, further discussion?
I just think, I know having 3 more liquor stores in our town is not ideal, but I think it'll also weed its way out. And I'm a big proponent of supply and demand. There's only so much demand for this supply, so hopefully it works. Hopefully what you say is what you do. We're counting on it, Jim. I know you're gonna have people on top of it, so I appreciate y'all due diligence on doing all that. Whoever it is that's watching over your properties for you. But yeah, I'm a big proponent of supply and demand, and I just don't think this town is going to demand as many liquor stores, and somebody's gonna close at some point.
Council's discussion?
I really hope that this is what we're saying it is, and I hope it's wildly successful as a grocery store that is providing different things downtown.
Convenience store.
Seeing no other discussion, council, please vote. That is approved. Takes us to approve new fiscal year 2023-2024 retail cigarette tobacco permit for Legacy Liquor Mart 1038 6th Street effective January 9th, 2024 through June 30th, 2024.
Not starting over, are we?
So we have a little conversation again?
No,
Move to approve.
second.
And Steve,
Just for a point of clarification, it was actually on the tobacco license that the liquor store box was checked. That's what I was referring to. I couldn't find it in the liquor, it was in the tobacco.
Tobacco.
Not that that matters in the conversation, but that's where that was.
did you have something?
Quick question. I don't want to go back to the alcohol thing, but assuming both licenses get denied tonight, are we still going to open business as a grocery store?
Just approve the liquor license.
That's okay. If you can sell tobacco products, would you open as a grocery store? Only?
A convenience store.
Convenience store only? by cards.
Like, Carrie, anything else you want? Like at that time of day and.
I just wanted to see if they would still operate under no licenses. They obviously approved one.
Question on the tobacco permit.
I think we're good. Thank you.
Okay. No further discussion, council, please vote.
Voice vote? There you go.
So that is approved. And before we go into reports, I do want to thank everybody for coming tonight. I think it's important to hear everybody's voice and want to thank everybody for sharing your opinion. I like to err on the side of letting people be heard rather than overly controlling the conversation. So I know there's lots of passion in this, and it's because we all love the community and all want what's best. I think the owners heard a lot of the concerns tonight, and I hope that they will take that to heart and as they set up their store and adjust to the wishes of the community. With that, we will go into reports, starting with city administrator.
All right, had a NEDC meeting, met with Emily this morning as well as Jacob from Curtis Architecture to discuss next steps for the CDBG facade grant. Went to Food It First and helped volunteer for their Food It First Drive Rotary on Wednesdays. Helped with a tour from Huxley group at the field house. Aaron, Karen, and I met with Embark Systems to go over our new AV system, and they should have a quote for us very shortly on that. Went through our first round of negotiations with the union. Also talked with several groups pertaining to our wastewater treatment facility and had several meetings pertaining to that. Brenda and I had a group come into town from New Jersey and Colorado, and we provided them a community tour. And then Karen and Mike Maloney with DA Davidson and myself talked with Ed Askew, our wastewater consultant, about our rate breakdown and kind of the financial outlook for that when it comes to our wastewater facility. And also had a meeting with Country Landscapes pertaining to a grant that Tim is going to be submitting at the end of the week. I also have my report that I would be more than happy to ask or answer questions if anyone has any.
Jordan? And moving on, I didn't hear from anybody on committees, so if there's any you want to drop or have wishes or interest to add, shoot me an email. We'll get that adjusted and get a new list out hopefully next month. Otherwise, been busy with the league and their legislative committee, and league day for those of you that may want to join is coming up in March. So if you want to go, let Aaron or Karen know and they can get you registered. And then I know we talked about it earlier, but wanted to formally thank the school for working with us on the SRO. I think that's a great project for the community. And as a parent, I think that means a lot too, to know that we're doing everything we can to keep the kids safe. So that is what I have. Council, any questions? Council reports? Okay, we'll go back to staff.
Yeah, I don't have much. We had a water main break last Thursday. Got it. It went really good. Well, number 5 is up and running. Thank goodness, that was a nightmare, but seemed to got all the problems with it fixed and it's working good. So other than that, do you have any questions?
Thank you.
water pollution control, just the regular operation maintenance that we do every month. And then I just wanted to put a hands out to Devin, the other operator down at the plant, because he graduated from the wet program at BMAT and has an associate's degree in the wet program. That's it. Any questions? Thank you.
We are moving forward with our assistant director hiring, and so Amanda is planning on our current assistant director is opening a small business on Main Street in Ames, hopefully in April. So she is going to shift to at least just part-time starting April 1st. And so, depending on the availability of whoever we hire, help provide some training for that person. And I have done about 10 phone interviews, and we'll be moving forward with some personal interviews in mid-March. On Wednesday of this week, we will be moving forward with some computer for our public computer, some upgrades to those. We are doing a 30-day trial with hopes of it being incredibly successful, of a program that will wipe the computers between each user. Currently, it wipes them when the computers are shut down. And so there's always that potential that people using public computers will have some information that could be left on them. So this is in an effort to kind of keep our patrons safer with their computer use. It will also offer some different things, including wireless printing. Patrons can directly sign in onto the computers themselves instead of having to check in at the front desk. And we've got a whiteboard where we keep track and all this stuff. So it should really, if the program works as it's supposed to, which I'm guessing it won't the first week or so, just from my experience with technology, but once it works as it's supposed to, it should really increase efficiency for staff and be a much better system for our patrons to use for printing and computer usage. And then we've got some great programs in March. We've got our second Midwest author coming, Tim Grover. He wrote a book about Babe Ruth's barnstorming tour that started in Perry, Iowa. We've got a seed library program about planting a kitchen garden. Actually, we just had 40 people at the library on Saturday as part of our seed swap. So our seed library is continuing to really do really great things for the library, and I think for the community too. We got a lot of people who mentioned how great it was. We had Luke from the community garden there. He had a lot of interest as well. And then we also are continuing our community conversations with, which is kind of our small focus groups we're doing for our strategic planning. So we're about ready to move into the next phase of that and kind of look at all the input we've gotten from people and actually make some goals and start moving forward. Any questions?
And thank you to your staff for recommending that Babe Ruth book. It was very good.
Good. Excellent to hear. And yes, he's coming on March 26th at 6:30. So we've got lots of copies of the book if anybody is a big baseball history person.
Park and Rec, we're really kind of starting to transition now to spring and summer. We're getting applications in, starting some interview process, getting trainings and things set up. So it's busy with that. Field house is busy as well. So we learn each day, each week, different things, but we're starting to see some trends, and we're starting to see now some, just different groups in the community kind of come and do things on their own with their own groups. So that's kind of nice to see that that part of it grow. So each day is new and different, but it's been a fun process. So I would also just mention one more thing. Our cemetery mapping program we've been working on for quite a while. We're really close to having that ready to roll out here, hopefully in the coming weeks to a month or so. Other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Wonderful. Thank you.
Good evening. Just a reminder, you did one budget amendment tonight, but that was just for the projects and before we went over with any more payments to the projects. And so I'll be working on the next one, probably the end of April. You'll see that again. Also the FY 25 budget, the proposed property tax levies that you approved tonight will be submitted to the county, and then they'll send out their letters to all the property owners next month. And then the March 25th meeting, we're gonna have two meetings that night. The special public hearing on the property tax levies will be at 6 o'clock, and our regular meeting will start at 6:15. So that's just a reminder about those. You have any questions?
Ray and I had to leave for fire. I don't have anything.
Nothing for me.
Good.
Council?
Before we adjourn, I want to say it was kind of cool having all of our department heads talking about their departments for some folks who may not normally be here for that, just to hear about the cool work that they do and the things, all the work that goes on behind the scenes. So that was really cool. With that, I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Jason, all those in favors?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks again for coming, everybody.
Thanks for your help. No, that one was. Yep.
It would